He said he loved her, then died hours later. Now Seleah's unraveling, trapped between timelines and heartbroken. Their first date was supposed to be the beginning. Instead, it might be the end of everything. Let's take a look as we enter. We're flashing forward to 2025 Seoul. The office was unusually still, the kind of stillness that made every sound feel too sharp. Minjae walked alongside of Seleah's mother, his expression controlled, but unmistakably tense. He wasn't frantic, he never was, but there was a weight behind every word he spoke. "I don't want to alarm you," he said quietly, "but the state of mind that she was in last time I saw her, and with the suicide rates the way that they are, we need to treat this very seriously," he said. Seleah's mother nodded shakily, holding her purse close to her chest. "I just want to know where she is," she whispered. "We'll definitely find out," Minjae said. His voice was steady, calm, the way he always sounded when he was gathering information and taking charge. "Hanrei might know something," he said. "She pays attention to things people don't see." They reached the office door. Minjae knocked once out of courtesy, then he opened it. Hanrei was inside, seated at the table, her posture straight, hands folded, expression unreadable. She lifted her eyes as they entered. Before Minjae could speak, as the door began to close softly behind them and then click shut, Seleah's mother stepped all the way inside. Then she froze. Her breath caught. She stared at Hanrei as if she was seeing a ghost. "You?" she whispered. Her eyes widened with recognition she couldn't explain. You, what is going on?" Hanrei didn't flinch, didn't move, didn't look surprised. Her voice came out level, calm, almost gentle. "Nothing you didn't ask me to perform," she said. The mother's hand flew to her mouth, shaken. Minjae looked between them, stunned by the familiarity. He straightened his posture. "What on earth does that mean?" he asked. Not panicked, but intensely focused. Seleah's mother stepped closer. "Is my daughter safe?" she asked, voice trembling. Hanrei looked at her directly, her tone softening. "Yes, I'm sure she's safe." She paused, a long, unsettling pause. "But I don't know for how long." Minjae inhaled sharply, the closest he ever came to showing fear. "I want an explanation right now," he said firmly. "All of it, now." Hanrei finally stood. Her presence was calm, authoritative, almost outwardly. "You'll get your answer," she said, "but not here." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I must check something first, and I can't do it empty-handed." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small list, handwritten. "These are the items I need, nothing more and nothing less." The mother blinked, confused and overwhelmed. Minjae took the list from her hand, scanning it with his usual precision. "We'll get them," he said. Hanrei nodded once. "Meet me at Seleah's place," she said quietly. "I will tell you everything there." She looked at them both, Minjae steady and demanding, the mother trembling and searching. "I promise," she said softly. "I will find her, I'm sure." Then she slipped past them, leaving them in the silence of the conference room, the weight of her words hanging like a countdown that had just begun. The hallway was long and quiet as Minjae walked beside Seleah's mother. The list Hanrei had given him he held firmly in his hand. His steps were steady, his breath measured. He was already in problem-solving mode, already planning how to obtain each item. But something still bothered him. He looked over at her. How do you know Hanrei?" he asked. He let out a breath that was half a sigh, half a laugh, but without humor. "Believe me," she said softly, "that's a very long story." She squeezed her purse straps, eyes drifting towards the floor as they walked. "But for now," she said, "let's just get what she asked for. I have a feeling she'll explain it better than I ever could." Minjae stopped in the elevator, scanning the list again. He frowned. "These are herbs," he said. "Just herbs. How is this supposed to help us find Seleah?" The mother shook her head slowly, her expression wary but decisive. "Let's just trust her," she said. "Please." She reached out and gently squeezed his forearm, grounding him. "I know my daughter," she said, "and something tells me Hanrei knows her in ways that I don't." Minjae met her eyes and finally nodded. "All right," he said. "Let's go." Together they stepped off of the elevator, the door sliding shut on their unspoken fear. Later that evening, there was a soft knock at Seleah's apartment door. Not hurried, not nervous, measured, deliberate, almost ceremonial. When Hanrei stepped inside, she was unexpectedly touched by the worry in their eyes, especially Minjae's. On the surface he was calm, composed as always, but to her he looked different, his energy restless, pulled tight and fraying at the edges. It almost made her curious what he was really actually feeling beneath all this control he held. Seleah's mother handed over the bag of herbs. Minjae didn't waste time. "Okay," he said, eyes flicking between Hanrei and the list of herbs on his mind. "So how is this going to get us any closer to Seleah?" he said. Hanrei let out a quiet chuckle, more breath than sound, as she realized just how far he'd come without knowing anything at all. "Seleah's fine," she said. "So please, sit." They did, Minjae on the edge of his chair, Seleah's mother folding her hands tightly in her lap. Hanrei sat opposite of them and began. "Seleah has cast a spell," she said, voice even. "And she has left this realm, and she is on a mission to save her father from certain death." Minjae's eyes widened. Seleah's mother leaned forward. "Save her father? Why?" "Because she's empty," Hanrei answered. "The emptiness has nothing to do with you. But it drains her so much that she can't even focus on her work, her daily life. She was completely distracted. Me firing her, honestly, it really put her out of her misery." Hanrei gave a small shrug. Her eyes flicked toward Minjae. Then he cut in. "Okay, what is this really about? I'm starting to get nervous here," he said. Seleah's mother finally found her voice. "This woman is this person," she said, staring at Hanrei. Anyways, I many years ago asked her to save my daughter from the emptiness. And she has tricked me." Her voice shook. "Tricked?" Hanrei scoffed lightly. I don't see it that way at all. Now, I must admit, this is a bit extreme, yes. I mean, her traveling back in time." "Traveling back in time," Minjae interrupted. "Okay, I've heard enough." He started to rise, but Hanrei lifted her hand, palm out, and the command in the gesture made him stop. "Sit," she said quietly. "The herbs you brought me will allow me to look and see. Would you like me to?" "Do whatever you have to do just to find Seleah, please," Seleah's mother said. "And quickly," Minjae added. "This is heading into uncharted territory, to say the least," he said. Hanrei began unbinding the herbs, laying them out with precise care. She dimmed the lights, then struck a match and lit the candle on the table. They watched, wary but silent. When the flame flared and settled into a deep, unnatural red, both of them stiffened. Hanrei closed her eyes and let herself fall inward, breathing slow, her fingers lightly grazing the herbs as if they were threads she could follow. The room grew very small, very still. When she finally came out of the trance, she exhaled sharply and opened her eyes. "Seleah's safe," she said. "However, she is weak, very weak. She's fading. Your husband, Thomas, she looked at Seleah's mother, will meet his fate soon. And in that same fate, Seleah will fade from that time as well and die. If she doesn't return by the next full moon, if she doesn't come back by then, she will never return. Not alive, anyway. The mother's hand flew to her mouth. Minjae stared, his logical mind already pushing against every word, searching for a loophole, an explanation that made sense. She's with... Hanrei began, then she stopped herself. She hesitated, weighing how much to reveal, watching Minjae's face as he reasoned, wrestled with the impossible. As she sat with the dim light, Hanrei went quiet. For a moment she let the silence stretch and simply looked at Minjae and felt his gaze on her in return. She couldn't quite understand what kept him rooted there. Why did he stay? He was just a manager, just her liaison. He could have just wished Seleah well and moved on with his life, but he hadn't. Now his care radiated off of him like heat, steady and stubborn, refusing to leave the room. The silence broke when Seleah's mother spoke. Okay, so how can we fix this? She said, her voice thinned but determined. Hanrei lifted her eyes to her. That depends on what you mean by fix, she replied. I just want her to live. Can we at least do that? Her mother said. Hanrei took a breath. From this end, we can't do much, she said. But there is something. What? Minjae scoffed lightly, the skepticism slipping through. I am certain that she'll come back through the door, Hanrei said. And if everything is going well on that side, it will be a soft entry. We can seal the door from our end so that she can't return to this side. If things are going as well as I think they should be, the goal will be to keep her there. She folded her hands. We can help contain the energy by closing the door, so it only has one route for her to exit. Will I ever see her again? Her mother asked, her voice breaking. If everything goes as well as I believe, Hanrei answered, it will be more than you could ever possibly have asked for. Minjae stood. So that's it, he said quietly. Hanrei rose too. We will need you as well, Minjae. It doesn't seem so, he replied, the distance already in his tone. He turned toward the door and walked out, the door closing behind him with a soft final click. Do we really need him? Seleah's mother asked. Not really, Hanrei said. But he'll be back. He's processing. What does it matter? Seleah's mother whispered. Hanrei looked toward the door that he had just walked through. It matters, she said, because he's her twin. Who? Him? The mother's head snapped toward the door. He's old. His body is old, Hanrei said softly, but his heart is hers. Meanwhile, in 1995, Seleah and Minjae stayed crouched low in the back seat of his car, the hum of the streetlights buzzing faintly above them. The windows were cracked, just enough for air, but not enough to be seen. They watched the sidewalk with quiet intensity, waiting for her father to walk his regular route home after work. Seleah's fingers tapped anxiously against her knee. It's been since last week, she whispered, that I saw that man tailing my father. Her jaw tightened. That man has some nerve, thinking he can just harass him like that. It disgusts me. Minjae glanced at her, reading the panic that she tried to mask. Do you think he'll really try to kill him? Minjae asked, voice soft, trembling in the dark. Honestly, Minjae, I'm terrified. Time is going by so quickly. He wanted to reassure her. but he could only place his hand steady over hers. Quiet strength, the only promise he could offer her. Seleah kept her eyes on the street, whispering to herself more than to him. He's so brave, just continuing his week as if nothing is bothering him, following him, really, as if the weight isn't just crushing him. She swallowed, emotion swelling. The joy I felt when I saw him at that ceremony, it was overwhelming, refreshing, like something had come back to life inside of me. Her voice faltered. But now, as the days draw closer, my heart aches. And, a sharp pain cut through her sentence. She gasped and pressed her palm to her forehead. Seleah? Minjae's heart dropped. He leaned forward instinctively. What is it? Nothing, she whispered, blinking hard. Just my head. I feel a spell of dizziness, yeah. But I'm fine now. Chinchayo? Really? His voice was low, unconvinced. She nodded, forcing a breath. Silence settled again until she had inhaled, lips curling into a soft, aching smile. Then her father walked by, right on schedule, unaware of the two hidden eyes watching him from the shadows. He passed by the car with his usual confident stride, groceries in his hand, shoulders unconcerned by danger. Seleah's smile lingered, fragile and full of longing, as though seeing him alive in that moment was the only thing holding her together. She exhaled, then reached into the bag of seaweed chips that sat between them, without even looking at him, and pressed a seaweed chip into Minjae's hand. For your nerves, she whispered. He rolled his eyes, but he took it anyway. The next morning was the day of the office party. Minjae awoke in his bed the usual way, the sharp buzz of the 6:30 a.m. alarm cutting through the morning quiet. But before he could even reach out to silence it, a small smile had already formed across his face. It eased across slowly, naturally, like it belonged there. He didn't smile much anymore, not like this, but today was different. He had that mandatory company banquet to attend. Even though he had technically been off for the week, he decided that he might as well go in early, drop off some work, check the terrain, see what had been changed since his absence. He knew at some point he had to pull himself back into some kind of normal routine, but he wasn't rushing it. Not today. There was only 4 days left. 4 days until everything he had learned, everything he had witnessed, everything he had feared, collided with the unknown. But he refused to think about that. Not today. Not right now. Tonight, he would see Seleah. Seleah dressed in that beautiful black dress. That's all he wanted to think about. At the office, he moved like a well-oiled machine, clean, efficient, focused, an expert in his field. But today it was more than just the expertise. Everyone felt the difference in him the moment he walked in. More control, more command, more confidence. As if he had quietly stepped into a version of himself that no one had ever seen before. At lunch, he sat with a group of co-workers, and to everyone's surprise, he talked, non-stop, engaged, present, almost light. They watched him like he was someone new. By the time the afternoon came, he had completed every file, signed every document, and organized every task that had been sitting on hold. His manager said nothing, partly because he had no critique, and partly because Minjae was suddenly 3 steps ahead of everyone in the building. As Minjae slung his bag over his shoulder and headed out toward the doors, one of his colleagues called out, "Hey, I heard you had a +1 coming tonight. Yeah?" He turned, offered a polite, almost shy smile. "Nah," he said, "just a friend." He walked out, still floating. But everyone in the room exchanged a look. They all knew better. Meanwhile, Hanrei called early, just after 7 a.m. Seleah's mother answered, voice tired but polite. Chona Chimineo, Henry. Good morning, Chona Chimineo, Henry said warmly. May I speak to Seleah? The phone rustled as she passed it over. Hello, Seleah muttered, her voice thick with sleep. Good morning, Henry repeated. How are you feeling today? Exhausted, Seleah murmured, rubbing her forehead. I was just... Her father stepped into the room at that moment. He leaned down, kissed both of them, his wife's temple and then Seleah's cheek, his usual gentle ritual that he adopted in the recent days before heading out the door. Have a good day, he whispered, waving as he left. Seleah set the phone down for a few seconds so she could wave back, and that was the moment that Henry felt it, a sudden drop, like the floor giving way beneath her. Her breath hit sharply. Without thinking, she ended the call. On the other end, Seleah picked the phone back up and blinked when she realized that Henry was no longer there. Really? She scoffed. She wakes me up at 7 a.m. just to hang up. What is she, some human alarm clock? She tried to lay back down, but something inside her buzzed too loudly to return to sleep. Across town, Henry sat rigid at her work desk, staring at nothing for a brief, long moment. The drop that she felt lingered like cold static in her chest. She pulled closer the notes that she had mapped out over the desk that she had been working on for days, tracing the lines and coordinates. She needed to find that time herb. She only had one chance, one path. Her hand tightened around her pen. I have to get this right, she said, and she began calculating again, determined not to fail. Back at Minjae's place, he stood in front of the mirror dressed in his tuxedo. Well, half-dressed. He hadn't cared about attending these company events in years. Another day at work, if you asked him, even when you were supposed to be off work. It was all the same to him, but not tonight. Tonight he was grinning like a kid at a candy store. He had tied his tie 5 times. 5. Every time he messed up, he stopped, shook his head, and tried again. On the 5th attempt, he actually got it right. He actually laughed out loud to himself. He styled his hair, checked himself twice, then he grabbed his keys and made his way out the door, still smiling. Meanwhile, back at Seleah's parents' home, her mother was grinning from ear to ear. Then she said, Did you date much in your time? She asked, leaning against the counter as Seleah touched up her makeup. No, Mother. Too busy. Seleah said it with a shrug. What? Her mother gasped. Oh, no, you're so beautiful. Minjae is crazy about you. You know that, right? He's just a nice man, Seleah said softly. He is not. Her mother replied immediately, shaking her head. There's nice, and then there's crazy. And he's definitely crazy about you. Seleah laughed out loud, covering her face. Oh, this is so fun. Her mother laughed too, but her breath caught when halfway through. She held it, blinking fast, trying to compose herself when she looked at her daughter, older now, but still her child, still in her heart. Seleah noticed instantly. She crossed the room in 2 steps and wrapped her arms around her mother, pulling her in tight. We still have fun, Ma, she whispered. Even though it was just the 2 of us, we still had fun. Her mother nodded against her shoulder, eyes closed as she hugged her back. But yes, Seleah added with a smile. This is fun too. She kissed her mother on the cheek, and then a knock at the door. Minjae. When her father opened the door and Minjae stepped inside, the room erupted into laughter. Seleah and her mother both doubled over, and even Thomas, standing nearest to Minjae, had to put his hand on the wall to steady himself. Minjae stood completely still, like a statue. He barely blinked. He tried everything in his power to maintain his cool, composed demeanor, but once the laughter filled the room, he buckled. He turned his head away to hide his smile breaking across his face, but it was too late. He knew he'd been caught. Thomas, still chuckling, tapped Minjae's shoulder. It's okay. She is very beautiful. Nay, yes, she is, Minjae admitted quietly. Thomas, eager to redirect the spotlight away from Minjae's softening composure, waved his hands. You two go now. You two have fun, he said quickly. Seleah and Minjae, smiling, waved goodbye as they stepped out into the evening light. When they arrived at the hotel and stepped inside, Minjae guided her with a gentle, attentive ease. He took everything in, every sound, every shift of light, every soft detail around him. Every moment with her, he etched it carefully into his mind. The feeling of her hand brushing his sleeve, the quiet hum of the lobby, the shimmer of her black dress as she walked beside him. He took a mental note of all of it as the evening barreled on. Later that night, after dinner, Minjae walked her toward the balcony lounge, a quiet space set apart from the noise of the banquet. Floor-to-ceiling glass revealed the entire skyline of Seoul spread beneath them, lights glittering like scattered stars. He stood beside her, hand resting lightly on the railing, letting the chill of the metal ground him. Seleah stood only inches away, the soft glow of the city painting her skin a warm amber. "How do you do it?" he said quietly, almost to himself. She didn't take her eyes off the skyline. Then she answered, "Do what?" "Keep from looking nervous," he said softly, "with all those eyes on you." The corner of her mouth lifted. "Honestly, I just tell myself the truth. They're not looking at me. They're looking at you." She finally turned to him. "And they're trying to figure out if you're crazy." He laughed through his nose, shaking his head. "You really think so?" "Yes," she said, leaning back against the glass. "You've done some crazy things this weekend, Minjae. Anyone else would have abandoned ship by now." He shifted closer, the warm lighting catching the edges of his profile. "Maybe," he said. "I'm a duo. But I had every intention of seeing you ever since I saw you standing on that bus stop. Ever since I saw you in that coffee shop. I wanted to know what you were about," he said. She lifted her chin slightly, enough to show she remembered it too. "Oh, really? And now that you know that I'm a black woman from the U.S. who traveled through time and who practices magic," she teased. He laughed, but there was sincerity beneath it. A strange combination. "But I think I passed the test when that candle blew out on its own and relit." Her eyes softened at the memory. There was a silence, not awkward, but charged. "Are you afraid of me?" she asked, voice quieter now, more vulnerable. He looked at her fully. The music from the inside drifted faintly through the open doorway. The city hummed below them. The cool breeze slipped between them, brushing her hair across her shoulder. And Minjae realized, with an ache that he hadn't expected, that the moment could slip away if he didn't speak. "No," he said. "I'm not afraid of you." He took one more step closer, closing the remaining distance. "I think," his voice caught. He swallowed, eyes searching hers, as if asking for permission to continue. Her breath trembled, the lights of the city reflected in her eyes, tiny fractured stars. He tried again. "I think what I wanted to say was that I think I love you." The words didn't hit her gently. They landed like a weight that she wasn't prepared for. Her lips parted, her breath stilled, every motion. It was suppressing her chest. All weak flickered across her face. Fear, wonder, longing, confusion, tenderness. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just felt it. Minjae stepped closer, slow, intentional, as if afraid that he would scare her away. His hand brushed the side of her arm. The warmth made her inhale sharply. He leaned in, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Her heartbeat pulsed visibly at her throat. As she tipped her face slightly toward him, her eyes rose to meet his. Her lips parted in a tiny breath. Her lashes trembled as she stood frozen, not out of fear, but because the moment felt too big, too fragile, too real. He tilted his head, ready to close the last inch. Minjae! His manager's voice cracked across the balcony like a drop of glass. Minjae's jaw tightened. His eyes closed in disbelief. Under his breath, he said, "What in the world?" He stepped back slowly, an embarrassed smile tugging at his mouth. As he cleared his throat, he tried to gather himself. And the moment that had almost happened passed. Minjae excused himself quickly and quietly, offering a polite apology as he made his way across the room to his boss. The interruption was brief, professional, unavoidable. When he returned, Seleah was still standing where he had left her, her expression unreadable, but warm. They left the banquet not long after. Later that evening, they decided to stop by her parents' house to grab a sweater before continuing the date. The night air had cooled now, the city quieter than it had been earlier. Seleah chuckled softly in the passenger seat as Minjae drove. What, he asked, glancing at her. I was just thinking about your face. Right before we were... He shook his head. I don't want to hear it. She laughed, the sound light, almost carefree. As they drove down a familiar street, Seleah's smile faded. There. Look at that, she said suddenly. That's my father. What is he doing? They slowed as they passed him on the sidewalk, bags in his hand. He looked fine, normal, too normal. Seleah frowned. He shouldn't be out this late. He's being reckless. Minjae eased the car to the side of the road. Do you want me to check on him? She hesitated. Then she shook her head. No, it's not today. It's not today. It's fine. Let's just keep going. She waved, and he waved them forward. They arrived at the house. She turned and spoke. I'll be quick, she said. She ran inside the house to grab the sweater from the chair. But then her mother entered, and she began to tell her mother that she had seen her father walking down the street with the bags. I don't like it, Seleah said. It feels off. Rosalie's expression tightened. I don't like it either. All of a sudden, I just got this bad feeling. Just go back and get him and bring him home, please. They didn't waste time. By the time they pulled onto the street, they spotted Thomas again further down the road now. And then they saw the van. It slowed as it approached him. Seleah's stomach dropped. The doors opened. Men stepped out. Minjae, she whispered. Thomas turned. Minjae hit the accelerator. But before he could reach him, before he could even open the door, one of the men lunged. Thomas reached out to grab something, to dodge. Then he slipped. Time fractured. He stumbled backward, lost his footing, and fell down the embankment, crashing through the bushes and the low trees, disappearing into the darkness below. Everything unfolding at the speed of light. The men froze for half a second. Then they ran. Minjae slammed on the brakes. Seleah was already out of the car. Dad! She screamed. She ran to the edge of the hill, peering down, but it was too dark to see anything. Her breath became fast and shallow. Minjae! She cried. He ran back to the car and grabbed a flashlight. And just as he turned to turn it on to move toward her, Seleah, no, wait! She tried to enter to descend the slope, but her legs gave out beneath her. She dropped to her knees. And then she flickered. Her body turned translucent, smoke thin, and then snapped back into solidity just as fast. Minjae saw it instantly. He knew what it meant. Seleah! She collapsed forward as consciousness left her body. He caught her just in time, pulling her into his arms as her body went limp. At the end of the block, Rosalie stood frozen. Then she ran. She didn't need to see him. She already knew. The inevitable had happened. The moment blurred. All Minjae could see was shadows, people moving without faces, voices without shape. Rosalie screamed. It wasn't a cry, it was broken, animal, the kind of sound that comes from somewhere too deep to reach. Doors opened up and down the block. Neighbors poured into the street. Lights flickered on. Someone shouted for help. Then the sirens came. First one, then many, until the streets swarmed with law enforcement and medical responders. They worked fast, too fast. They lifted Seleah's body carefully, calling her name, loading her into the ambulance. The door slammed shut and the vehicle pulled away, lights flashing red against the houses as it disappeared down the street. Minjae stood frozen. He couldn't feel anything. He couldn't cry. He couldn't move. He couldn't speak. His body was there, but he wasn't inside it. Then he looked up, through glossy, glassy eyes, unfocused eyes. He saw Hanrei standing at the edge of the room. Rosalie saw her at the same moment. Both of them stood instinctively, as if pulled upright by her presence alone. Before either of them could speak, Hanrei rushed past them. She closed the hospital room door firmly behind her and pulled the blind shut, sealing Seleah inside the room. Minutes passed. It felt like hours. When the door finally opened, Hanrei stepped out, her face grave, but controlled. "She's with us," she said. "But we don't have much time." Rosalie staggered forward. What happened?" she asked. "I thought..." Hanrei cut her off gently but firmly. "Before you ask," she said, "understand this. The spirit doesn't have a watch. Time can never be exact." She looked at them both. "But we do have some. Not much, but some." Rosalie pressed her hand to her mouth, tears spilling freely now. "Seleah is dire," Hanrei continued. "But we must pull ourselves together for Thomas's sake and finish what we started." Her voice hardened slightly, not unkind, but unyielding. "Unfortunately, there's no time to shed any tears right now. Seleah only has days. The week I was hoping for is no longer an option." Minjae's chest tightened. "But," Hanrei said, and that single word cut through the air, "I've located the time herb." They both looked at her. "Stay with her tonight," Hanrei instructed, "and tomorrow, do not leave her side." She turned toward Minjae and back to Rosalie. "Both of you, be at my shop tomorrow. We must prepare." Her voice dropped, sharp with urgency. "Now, I must go and tend to something quickly." She didn't wait for a response. The room fell silent again, except for the sound of Seleah's shallow breathing behind the closed door. And for the first time since the ambulance left, Minjae felt something break inside of him. After Hanrei hurried down the hall, Rosalie and Minjae watched as she disappeared out of sight. This was the fastest either of them had ever seen her move. Hanrei usually traveled at her own pace, slow and deliberate, as if time bent around her instead of the other way around. But this was urgency, and Minjae found himself wondering what could possibly drive someone so frail-looking with that kind of force. What was she going after? The thought vanished the moment Rosalie cracked open the door to Seleah's hospital room. They stepped inside together. The sound hit him first, the steady beeping, the hum of the machines, the soft rustle of wires and the tubing, the smell of antiseptic, the sight of her so still beneath the thin sheets. Both of them thought of the same name at the same time. Thomas. Rosalie gently motioned for Minjae to step closer, and he did. He reached for Seleah's hand and held it carefully, as if afraid that she might disappear beneath his fingers. Rosalie watched him for a moment, and then looked toward the door. "I need to catch Hanrei," she said quietly. "Before she gets to that train, I need to ask her something." She squeezed Minjae's shoulder. "I'll be right back," she reassured him. And then she was gone. Minjae sat alone beside Seleah's bedside, the numbness finally washing over him. Questions flooded in relentless. Was she really brought into his life just to awaken him, only to leave? Was she dying, or just being pulled back into another time? Should he let her go? Could any of this actually work? Could they really be together? Could he go with her? The questions spiraled until he could no longer control them anymore. "Seleah," he whispered. "Nothing." "Yo gesso." "I'm here," he said softly. "We promised each other that we would try for each other," he said. "That's what I'm doing." He swallowed hard. "You said you would do that too, right?" His eyes drifted toward the candle Hanrei had placed at her bedside. The flame was barely there, a thin silver ray of light, struggling to stay alive. Minjae closed his eyes and pressed Seleah's hand gently against his forehead. "Seleah, I love you," he said. His voice cracked. "You never answered me." He tightened his grip, desperate now. "Please come back to me. Or at least tell me you don't love me, so I can come up with a plan to try to change your mind." A breath. "Please." The flame dimmed further. His breath caught. A tear slipped free and landed on her hand as he squeezed it. Then, before his very eyes, the flame surged, bright, bold, alive. And just as quickly as it did so, it settled itself again. Minjae looked up. Seleah's lashes fluttered. Her eyes opened. "How?" she whispered weakly. Minjae laughed and cried at the same time. "Hanrei." It was Hanrei, he answered. Everything has changed. One life lost, another slipping away. But the door, it's still open. Chapter 6, the finale, the crossroads, it's up next. Like and subscribe. See you there.